Okay, this is another segment of In His Own Words, and I'm here with Anthony Stover, who is a founding member of Georgia Empowerment, which is an advocacy organization for youth in foster care and those who have aged out of foster care. So, Anthony, tell me a little bit about your experience in foster care.
Well, I spent a little bit of over 11 and a half, 12 years in Georgia's foster care system. I have two siblings that have been in the system as well. All of us have aged out without permanency or permanent homes. I end up finding my permanency kind of on my own, but for the most part, it's just a transition out of care.
Okay, and so you've had a lot of different experiences. You've been in foster care, and you've also had the opportunity to be a group home parent. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, could you tell me a little bit about your experience as a group home parent?
So my experience as a group home parent, I was actually I guess a relief staff. So I would come in the evenings to give the full time worker some time to herself, and pretty much I worked with the boys, and I kind of considered myself since I wasn't much older than them, I kind of just told them that I was more or less the big brother that was left in charge, or what have you. And we got along well. I set my rules and set my boundaries, and they understood them. Of course, they tried to test the lines, but they saw that I don't necessarily budge too much on them because my rules are pretty simple.
Okay, and so what kind of outcomes, or what did you see out of the African American boys who are in foster care?
Well, for the most part, I think what I saw with our African American young males was it wasn't great outcomes. I think out of all the ones that I've seen that transition through that group home, maybe one is what you would quote unquote call a success story, and that's because he played sports and he ended up getting a scholarship, and we really had to stay on him about that. But as far as everything else, like our boys end up either going to jail or going back to the same situation that they was in with their families before they came to care or what have you. And my thought was that the reason why they came into care was to get out of this situation, and nobody has made any effort to improve that outcome or what have you.
Okay, and so a little bit earlier you talked about permanence, which is like getting adopted or finding a permanent home. So I read an article in the New York Times that said male children or boys are less likely to be adopted, as well as African American children are less likely to be adopted. So would it follow that African American boys are less likely to be adopted?
For the most part, if you ask any young person that's in care that is 10 or older, they would consider themselves, as one of my foster brothers describes it, as spoiled milk. Nobody wants them after a certain age. Everybody wants to, for a bad analogy, everybody wants to go to the pet store and get the cute little cuddly puppies,
Right.
or what have you. Nobody wants the big, almost teenage.
Teenage boys.
Yeah, teenage young boys or young girls, because they feel that we're set in our ways and things like that. And then also what tends to happen is that the reason why people don't want the teenagers is the same reason why they give up the kids that they adopted as a teenager when they become teenagers.
So they end up going back into the system
Yes.
even after being adopted. So,
Yes.
what contributed to your success?
So another thing that I would say helped me out in the long run was the fact that I did have people around me. Like I was able to find permanency on my own. So I have like mentors. I have my adoptive mom, and that adoption really didn't go through until like a few years ago. So it was an adult adoption. I have like the social worker of the group home that I lived at, and he's more like a father figure to me. So he's always in my life, and just a lot of different people that I'm able to reach out to, and in case certain things happen. And like a lot of times for foster youth that transition out of care, you can imagine like if at 3 o'clock tonight or tomorrow morning your house was to catch on fire, you know all the people that you would call to say, hey, I don't have anywhere to go or to sleep tonight, or even if not that, you know to call your insurance and maybe they put you up in a hotel. Whereas for you're thinking about youth that transition out of foster care at age 18, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, and their house catches on fire. Where do they go? Who do they turn to? How do they know how to handle these different situations if they have not had anybody to teach them those things?
Right. So those relationships are really important.
Yes, very important.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.